Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Learn English Now. I'm so glad you're here. Today, our topic is the Cultural Revolution in China. This was a movement that lasted from 1966 to 1976. It brought huge changes to the country in politics, society, and daily life. At the same time, it caused chaos, violence, and deep suffering for millions of people. This video not only gives you knowledge and a clear view of an important period in history, but it also helps you improve your English skills listening, reading, and pronunciation. So let's begin. Part 1. The beginning of a big idea. In the early 1960s, Mao Zedong began to feel worried. He saw that the Chinese Communist Party was becoming too old and slow looking at the party leaders. Mao believed they were no longer true communists. Instead, they seemed to be more like people from a capitalist country. This concern was not new. Before the Cultural Revolution, Mao's power had been challenged by the failure of his previous plan, the Great Leap Forward, which had caused a terrible famine. While he was still the most important figure, his influence had been reduced, and other leaders like Liu Shaoqi and Deng Xiaoping had gained more power. He was concerned that China was losing its way and moving away from the true path of communism. Mao also worried that some other leaders in the party were becoming too powerful, and he felt the young revolutionary energy had disappeared. The spirit of the revolution, he believed, was gone. Mao wanted to bring that energy back. He decided to begin a big new movement, which he called the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution. The word cultural meant it was a revolution for ideas and beliefs, a revolution of the mind and spirit. The word proletarian meant it was a revolution for the workers and poor people, the true heroes of communism. The main goal was to stop old ideas, old ways of thinking, and old traditions. The goal was to make new, pure ideas the most important thing. It was a very big idea designed to change the way everyone in China thought and lived. It was not just about politics. It was about every part of daily life. To start this revolution, Mao spoke directly to the young people. He knew their energy and passion could be a powerful force. He talked to students in schools and universities, asking them to question old ideas and traditions. Mao encouraged them to stand up against powerful leaders and gave the youth a strong voice. He told them to challenge their teachers and parents, saying that they might have old, bad ideas. The students, full of energy and excitement, listened carefully. Many accepted his message. Thinking they could improve China, they felt their actions were right for both the country and for Mao. They saw themselves as heroes of the new China, the people who would reform the nation. The students quickly began to form their own groups. These groups were called the Red Guards. The name Red Guards came from the color of communism. The color red is a symbol of the revolution. The Red Guards wore red armbands and carried a small red book. This book was very important. It was called the Little Red Book. It was filled with sayings and ideas from Mao Zedong. The Red Guards read this book all the time, memorizing its words and believing that everything inside it was a guide for how to live and what to do. The book became a symbol of their loyalty to Mao and their new way of thinking. The Red Guards became a very powerful force in the revolution, acting as the main fighters for these new ideas. They were very loyal to Mao and were ready to follow his orders without question. Their passion was the fuel for the revolution, and their actions would soon change everything. Part 2: The Red Guards and the fight against the Four Olds. The Red Guards truly believed in Mao's words. They felt they had to fight against the Four Olds. These were four old things Mao said were bad for China. The four things were old ideas, old culture, old customs, and old habits. The Red Guards believed these things were stopping China from becoming a new and perfect country. They thought these old ways were from a bad time in the past, so the Red Guards started to destroy them, believing this was a holy mission. Their actions were often done with a sense of excitement and righteous fury. They felt they were doing something good for the country. Even while they damaged important parts of its history and culture, the Red Guards went to libraries and burned books, saying the books were old and full of bad ideas. In museums, they destroyed paintings and ancient art, claiming these works came from a culture that should be replaced. At temples, they broke statues and damaged buildings, arguing that such places represented old customs. Many beautiful and sacred places, like the Forbidden City, were almost destroyed but were saved by the army at the last moment. The Red Guards also tried to stop people from keeping traditional habits. For example, by forcing changes in clothing and hairstyles. To them, everything had to be new and connected to the revolution. The Red Guards carried out this mission very seriously, traveling to many places and causing widespread destruction. They believed that by removing the old, they could create a new and better China. But their actions caused great harm to the country's history and culture. Many priceless pieces of art and ancient texts were lost forever. The Red Guards did not only destroy objects, they also hurt people. They targeted those they believed still held old ideas. They attacked people seen as rich or powerful from earlier times, even if they were not rich anymore. These people were called class enemies. Teachers, doctors, and writers were often chosen, accused of having bad ideas from the past. These class enemies were forced to stand before large crowds. In public places, big signs were hung on them to show their crimes. They even had to wear tall paper hats as a way of shame and humiliation. This was a form of public punishment called a struggle session. The Red Guards wanted to show that these people were bad and use them as an example for others. The victims of these sessions felt immense emotional pain and fear. It was a very difficult time for many people who lived in fear that the Red Guards would come to their homes and accuse them of having bad ideas. People even turned on their own families and friends to save themselves. The Red Guards even went into the homes of well-known people. They entered the houses of professors and artists without asking. Their belongings were taken away or destroyed. The Red Guards said these objects came from the old times and were not good for the new China. Their actions showed that no one was safe. No matter how famous or important someone was, they could be accused and their lives could be ruined. This was a very frightening time for many families who were scared of what the Red Guards might do next. Because the Red Guards had Mao's support, nobody could stop them. Their power seemed unlimited, and the chaos grew across the country, spreading like a fire in all directions. Part 3: The Peak of the Chaos and the Army's Role. As the Cultural Revolution grew, things became very bad. The Red Guards were a big and powerful group, but soon different Red Guard groups started fighting with each other. They had different ideas about what was right and what Mao truly wanted. The Red Guards were not one single group. There were many different factions, each one believing it was the only true follower of Mao's ideas. They began to fight using weapons they took from army stores or made themselves. They built roadblocks in the streets and had battles with each other. This was a very bad time for the country. The government could not control the fighting, and the police were helpless. The Red Guards were fighting everywhere, and the fighting was very dangerous. Many people were hurt, and many people were killed. Filled in these battles, the chaos became too much for the country to handle. Schools and factories stopped working completely. Government offices were taken over by Red Guards. There was no order and no law. The whole country was in a state of chaos. The economy started to have serious problems. People could not go to work, and they could not buy basic things like food. The country's infrastructure was breaking down. The national trains and buses were hijacked by Red Guards to travel to different cities, which caused major transport problems. Even some of the people who were with Mao at the start began to worry. They saw that the revolution was causing too many problems. It was causing too much fighting and too much chaos. Mao had to do something. He had started the revolution, and now he had to stop the fighting. He had to stop the chaos. In 1968, Mao decided to use the army. The army was a very strong and organized group. Mao told the army to go into the cities and stop the fighting. The army did this using force to stop the different Red Guard groups from fighting each other. Many Red Guards were arrested or even killed by the army. This marked a new phase of the revolution. It was a time when the army became more important than the Red Guards. The chaos was stopped by the army, but this did not mean the revolution was over. It was just changing its form and its leadership. After the fighting was stopped, Mao decided to do another big thing to control the young people. He decided to send many of them away from the cities. This was called the Up to the Mountains and Down to the Countryside movement. Millions of young people were sent to live in the countryside. They had to leave their families, their homes, and their schools. They were sent to live and work with farmers. The idea was to teach them about real life and to make them learn from the workers and the poor people. The goal was to teach them to be good communists and to stop them from causing more trouble in the cities. For many young people, this was a very difficult time. They had to work very hard in the fields, and they were far away from their families. Life was very hard and very different from their lives in the cities. Many of them never returned to the cities. This movement went on for many years, acting as a way to remove the Red Guards from the cities and to control the young people's energy. It also caused a great sense of disappointment and loss for a whole generation, who had been promised a great future. Part 4: The End and the Lasting Consequences. The Cultural Revolution finally ended in 1976 with the death of Mao Zedong. After he passed away, new leaders took control of China and began to change things. The leaders slowly ended the revolution. Step by step, order returned, and daily life began to feel normal again. They admitted the Cultural Revolution was a big mistake. It had brought many problems to China and caused great suffering for its people. The new leaders, led by Deng Xiaoping, started to rebuild the country, working to fix the things that were broken and to change the economy. They also arrested a group of leaders known as the Gang of Four who had been very powerful during the revolution. Their arrest marked the official end of the revolution's ideals. The Cultural Revolution had many lasting consequences. These effects were felt for many years and are still felt today. One of the biggest consequences was on people and families. The revolution caused many families to break apart. Children went against their parents. Students went against their teachers. People lost their trust in each other. People were afraid to talk and afraid to say what they really thought. The trust between people was broken for a long time. The deep psychological scars from this period were immense. For many years, people did not talk about the Cultural Revolution, afraid to remember the bad things that had happened. This silence was a form of self-protection, lasted for decades. Another big consequence was on the economy. The Cultural Revolution was a time of chaos and a time of lost production. Factories did not work well. Engineers and scientists were sent to the countryside. People could not go to work, and the country's economic system collapsed. The lack of order caused many problems. After the revolution, the new leaders had to fix the economy and make it work again. It took a long time to fix the damage that was done. This period is often called a lost decade for economic development, and it set China back many years compared to other countries. The leaders had to start from a very low point to begin China's modern economic growth. A third major consequence was on politics and ideas. The Cultural Revolution was a time of big public political movements where people could go against the government led by Mao. After the revolution, the new leaders said this was a bad thing. They explained a large public movement was dangerous because it created too much chaos. From then on, they decided no more big public movements would be allowed. This was a big change, designed to make the country more stable and to ensure the chaos would not happen again. The government took a lot of control and became very powerful. They wanted to make sure that the people would not be able to rise up and cause chaos again. The Cultural Revolution also had a big effect on education. Many schools were closed for a long time. Many teachers were hurt or sent away. Many smart people were sent to the countryside. The education system was broken. This had a bad effect on many young people who could not get a good education. The new leaders had to rebuild the education system from the ground up, which was a very hard job that took a lot of time. A whole generation of people grew up without a proper education, and this created a lost generation in terms of skills and opportunities. Part 5. Remembering the Cultural Revolution. Today, the Cultural Revolution is a very difficult topic to talk about in China. The government has an official view of it. The government describes Mao as a great leader, but admits he made a serious mistake in his later years. It explains that the revolution was a period of chaos and trouble. Today, officials do not want people to discuss it too much. It is a very sensitive topic, controlled by the government. This is called censorship, which means the government controls what people can say, read, and see. You cannot talk about the Cultural Revolution openly in China. You cannot find much information about it in books or on the internet inside the country. The government wants to move forward and does not want people to remember all the bad things. The official narrative serves to keep control and protect the legacy of the Communist Party. However, many people in China, especially the people who lived through the revolution, remember it. People still recall the sad and difficult times. The chaos and fear stay in their minds. They think of families that were torn apart and friends who were lost. For them, the memories are very painful. What happened remains clear in their hearts. Even if they cannot speak about it openly, the stories are often passed down quietly from parent to child without being written down. The echoes of the past can still be felt in the relationships between people and in the deep mistrust that exists. The Cultural Revolution is a lesson for China and for the world. This story teaches what can happen when chaos grows too strong. It shows the danger of giving people too much power without control. It warns about the harm caused when the past is destroyed, and it reminds us how an idea or belief can bring great suffering. The Cultural Revolution is a very important part of history that should be remembered. It can teach us many things about the importance of order, the importance of law, and the importance of respecting each other. It is a story of a difficult time that changed a country forever, showing us that even big ideas can have very bad consequences. The Cultural Revolution is a dark and important chapter in modern history.